welcome to the August 24th Education and Pupil Services Committee meeting. As permitted by the Board Section 520.1 resolution, and due to the circumstances giving rise to that resolution, the Board is holding this advertised public meeting virtually. The procedures for the virtual meeting are more fully detailed in the Upper Darby School District School Board COVID-19 Special Operating Procedures and includes those for public participation. Dr. McGarry, will you please outline the public participation procedures?
Yes, Board President Brown, and thank you for everybody who's joining us live this evening. Moving into September, we will be holding in-person board meetings. Hopefully, we'll move in that direction with limited capacity in our buildings, given the substantial range that we're in right now with COVID spread. But we'll also be live streaming, continuing live streaming to allow for participation. Either way, the board is very eager and anxious to make sure we continue to have participation from our public before they make any decisions. Tonight is a committee meeting, and the participation goes like this. You could send in a phone in a comment or a question at 610-789-7200. Again, 610-789-7200, extension 2000. Please provide your name, your address, and the specific agenda item you'd like to comment or question on this evening. And the board will definitely take that into consideration before moving forward and moving potentially agenda items on to the next voting meeting. There are two meetings this evening. One is Finance and Operations, and the other one is Education and Pupil Services. You can also send an email in to committee questions, that's plural, committee questions at upperdarbysd.org. Same process as you would follow when you phone in a comment or a question. You can leave your name, address, and it's very important that you leave the specific agenda item you'd like to comment on or question this evening. We will read that into the record, and the administration will do their best, and the board will do their best to answer any questions that we are able to this evening. Board President Brown, if you need me to follow up on any of this as we move forward, I'll be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McGarry. Please revisit that at your discretion as the night progresses. The meeting of the Education and Pupil Services Committee will please come to order. Roll call, Board Secretary Mr. Rogers, please.
Dr. Haig,
Present.
Mr. Desnoyers,
Sorry about that. I am present and can hear the proceedings.
Mr. Warsavage,
I am present and can hear the proceedings.
Mr. Neal,
Present.
Ms. Williams,
Present.
Mr. Fields,
Present.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Present.
Mrs. Curry, Mr. Brown.
Present. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. In order to allow this meeting to continue virtually and as permitted by Policy 003, I move to suspend portions of the following policies. From Policy 006, I move to suspend language in the section titled Public Participation to remove the words present at a board meeting, and thereby allow members of the public to participate through the other means we have provided. In Policy 006.1, I move to suspend the language a majority of board members shall be physically present at a board meeting when a board member attends through electronic communications. This will allow as many board members as necessary to participate remotely. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say I oppose and state your name for the record. Anyone abstaining, please say I abstain and state your name for the record. The motion carries. I will now turn over the Education and Pupil Services Committee agenda to co-chair Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, President Brown. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Education and Pupil Services Committee meeting. We just have one agenda item this evening, and it is on our Summer Academy program highlights from 2021.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I'd like to spend a few minutes just reviewing our Summer Academy program that we were able to run this school year. We were able to engage about 1,000 students, approximately 1,000 students in some summer learning activities. And I want to just address or just review with you some of the highlights of these programs. So this is just one example of the many quotes that we've gotten or responses that we've gotten either from teachers, the parents, students themselves that reached out and said what a wonderful experience they did have. I would be remiss if I did not give thanks and kudos to the district supervisors who did an enormous amount of work in planning for this, as well as our EL coordinator, Eileen Caruso, the supervisors for special ed who did a ton of planning to have these programs up and running for this school year. So a tremendous amount of thanks and hard work that went into this program is due to their efforts. So the agenda for tonight is I will review some of the program highlights and what we were able to accomplish. I will show you some of the photos that we were able to capture during the summer months, and then just talk about some next steps as we hope to continue these programs moving forward into other summers. So in the past, we were able to run a summer school program for our K-3 students, or entering first, entering second, and entering third. We always have done a middle school program as well, and we always have done some high school programs. This year, however, we were able to expand all of those programs, and we're able to engage many more students in the opportunities. So we offered a program for entering kindergarten, which was new for us. Usually we focused on our entering first, entering second. So we were able to capture some of our entering kindergarten students, which was a tremendous benefit to get them acclimated into the school, get them ready to learn, and be prepared to what they were ready to enter into now in August next week. That was called our Ramp Up program. We were also able to do some enrichment activities with our 1st through 5th grade students. And then our middle school program, what we focused on this year was really ramping up. What were they expecting to see in their next years of school? So not focusing on what they did not learn, but what would get them into the school mode again, and what would get them ready to learn in their next grade level. So that was our focus in the middle schools. They participated in academics as well as elective areas. And then our high school program, we were able to do two things this year. We concentrated on our 8th into 9th grade students, got them into the building, into the high school, got them learning the building. And then we were also able to concentrate on our 9th through 12th graders, where we have to focus on that credit recovery program, who was maybe not successful or as successful as they could be in that online environment, and were able to recover their credits now in a more formal setting or a more traditional setting. So that was our focus, or that was our overview of the program. In our elementary summer academy, we engaged over 500 students, closer to 560 students here. They participated in phonemic awareness and phonics, fluency, comprehension, and math. You'll see we tried to make things fun, because the last thing a student wants to do is go to summer school. So we really tried to flip that mentality and say, it's a summer academy, we are going to have some fun activities. So you'll see the students on our left that are writing or in shaving cream on the desks. We engage them in as many fun activities as we can. Probably one of the most fun that the students responded to was the writing activities that they like to participate in. And that was our virtual enrichment activities. So we were also able to engage other students in virtual learning activities throughout the summer as well. They participated in a writing workshop. This was over 150 students that did sign up. They did a book study on the Lemonade War. They did lots of writing. They did author celebration day. So they really engaged in those learning opportunities, and the students that's where we got a ton of feedback that said it was such a pleasure to be in the schools doing those fun activities. The teachers even said it was nice to engage with the students in a different way. Some of the parent feedback that we have is up on the board. I'm not going to read every one to you, but you have an idea of just the idea of preparing for the next grade level, the confidence that was built up in our students. As they were mentally preparing for that transition. We heard from parents that that was a great help. And it was just an amazing experience, and you see that in some of the quotes that were left up on the board. Our EL summer program, we had elementary and secondary students involved. Our elementary program serviced over 100 students. They attended both Highland Park and Stonehurst, and our secondary students were here at the high school. Our high school had many, many students this year during the summer. All of our secondary students were here because of the construction projects that were happening at Beverly Hills. So this building was up and running almost the entire summer with students from our EL program, as well as our middle school, our general ed population for middle school as well. We also had some special ed students here at the high school. So this building had many, many students, and there was a lot going on in this building throughout the whole summer. Here, the focus for the EL program is varied by grade and varied by proficiency levels. So they're concentrating on speaking, listening, and writing, phonemic awareness and grammar, and math based on grade level, as well as the proficiency level based on data. All of the students that we serviced this year, they were based on data, except for our students entering K and 1, where we invited every single student to come join us. We reviewed that back in, I believe, February here at a committee meeting, but just to reiterate that. So we tried to keep as many seats open as we could, but we also had to balance it with how many teachers wanted to service our students over the summer. As we move forward, the extended school year, or ESY, was for our special education students. About 551 students participated. And the concentration for special ed is on IEP goal maintenance, as well as goals in reading, writing, math, speech, OT, and PT, as well as all of the other things listed here. The teachers were provided all the instructional materials that they needed, and they continued to monitor and track the progress over the summer and continue to communicate with those parents throughout the summer so they would know what their students were learning. Next, part of our elementary program was our high-energy, hands-on camp innovation. This was new to our school district. It was the first time that we were able to run something like this. And we had over 40 students at Garriford and Stonehurst who had 2 weeks of STEM activities, of building things, trying out things, taking things apart and putting them back together. So it was it was fun 2 weeks for these students. The seats were limited here due to the number of people that the camp itself could hold and the materials that we were able to get. We also had Upper Darby National Honor Society students helping with the younger kids as they were in these STEM activities. So through the weeks, the first week they built solar bugs. They also did some reverse engineered microphones to learn how they worked. They taking things apart. The excitement on their little faces was great. The other thing was they designed some catapults that they used to launch some rubber ducks across the room, and who doesn't love to throw something across the room, especially little kids, so they had a blast doing this. But the activities really reinforced the science and math, as well as nonfiction reading throughout this whole program. Again, it was a 2-week program. We had about 40 students that were able to participate. Our own teachers were doing the program. However, our Camp Innovation came in and trained our teachers. We bought the materials with them, and then they taught us how to do the program.
Excellent.
Middle school. So again, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students entering 6th, entering 7th, and entering 8th grade students. These are our numbers for students that were able to come in. And during the summer, we did see some fluctuating weeks, which we always see whenever we run a summer program. So we saw some weeks everybody was there, and then some weeks not everybody was there. But we often got emails from parents saying, you know, we were going on vacation. Is it okay if we miss? And we totally accepted that and knew that was going to happen. So our numbers, this is how many students enrolled, but each week it did fluctuate just a little bit. The focus for the middle school, like I mentioned before, was really on ELA and reading, and then math. But also each of the students were able to participate in one of the elective areas, and we did it based on some interests. So we collected some interest surveys from the students as well as their parents, and then we tried to roster them the best that we could based on teacher availability and everything else. So we did some hands-on science, some historical and current events, engineering, but it was all based on the teachers that we had here in our, that were able to come in and actually support and help us. The reason that we concentrate on the academic areas of ELA and reading and math was because we didn't have a ton of science teachers that were able to provide time for us, so we couldn't build a traditional schedule of ELA, math, science, and reading, or science and social studies. but we did try to give them activities that would support that learning in other ways. Moving on, that 8th grade into 9th grade situation or experience that they had, there was 120 students that were here. They did concentrate on math, ELA, and social studies. Again, that science area was the one area that we struggled to get the number of teachers to really support that learning. We did try to incorporate as much science into that math content as we could, and just kept building up their experiences in the classroom. So the 8th grade into 9th grade students focused on those 3 areas, really. Last was our high school credit recovery classes. You'll see that based on the high school need, we had some students that needed 1 class, we had some students that needed 2 classes, and then we also had some students that needed 3. We also kept our eye on those students that needed 1 or more classes to just graduate, and we had a 74% success rate there for our students coming in. But you'll see that many of the students were able to gain back some of their credits so that they were more successful coming into the 21-22 school year. Also, in addition to the high school students that needed credits, we were able to run some clubs. And these clubs ran virtually, and our teachers used their Google Meets to meet with the students for about 6 weeks, not necessarily consecutive weeks, but we're able to start at the end of June throughout the beginning of August and meet with their club to keep those things going and the work that they do as a club. So all of those clubs were able to run during the summer as well with our club sponsors and leaders. Some additional summer things that we were able to do this year. So we had the morning with the king of math. So Rob had some mornings that he shined. Nearly 75 students participated. He did them in grade bands, so was able to engage them in some fun learning activities for math. We also had some community reads. So we did the one and only Ivan. I know many people in this room engaged in some way and read. My daughter and I read many nights. So each Monday night, Kristen O'Neill would have a kickoff of the one and only Ivan. And then the many people up here would start to read and trade off, and the students were engaged. We had about 10 students that every week they were there. They didn't miss a beat. And then we had some that popped in and popped out, but they were reading along, many of them. They loved it. They want to read the next book in the series and asked if we could get it for them. So I'm working on getting them the next book about Bob. And then the last thing that we were able to do this year was the community read for the secondary students, and we read I Will Always Write Back, where we had, again, about a solid 10 students that were able to participate and read along. Well, theirs looked a little bit different. They read first, and then they had a book discussion, and Kathy Kenya ran that one for us. So just some future plans. So what we would like to see happen is, what we would like to see happen is with the help of the ESSER funds that we are receiving. So all of this funding happened through the ESSER 2 funds that we had. As we move into the ESSER 3 funds, we're hoping to continue and sustain and grow these programs for the next 2 to 3 summers. So our plan is to keep them going and to make them better and better each year, engage more families and students. The feedback that we received from parents was sometimes the times didn't work out for them and what we could do to adjust times, as well as the days of the week. They want to see 5 days a week, not just 3. So things like that. So things that we have to work on, but we did collect feedback from parents, students, as well as our teachers as we start to move forward. So the salaries, right now the cost for just running this program was about $800,000 to run a robust program where we're engaging probably about 1,000 students and paying our teachers to run the program cost about that for this school year. Any questions?
First, I was impressed with the depth and the breadth of the offering. It seems like it was very comprehensive, and anything that students would be interested in seems like it was offered. On the first slide, I think you stated that the middle school was ramp up only, and I know that it was enrichment for one of the other groups. So if you can go back to that slide, I'm going to make sure I'm asking the right thing. Right. So enrichment was for the elementary students. Is it, the question is, are there plans to offer enrichment for the middle school students in the future with the program?
So we would like to, so part of the ramp-up program for the middle school students was those electives.
Okay.
So in elementary school, you don't have the electives, so they were the enrichment program. In the ramp-up program, we were able to run those electives that
Okay.
students were able to choose. So we hope to expand the amount of electives that we would have running. It's just sometimes that's based on the teacher interest and feedback at that point. So we were able to run a few of those electives that they would get as their enrichment period. We just separated it out differently because elementary students usually don't get those elective areas.
Understood. That's why when I looked at that list of electives, it looks like it was enrichment
Yes,
related courses. So thank you.
exactly.
Thank you for that.
So just to clarify, you're saying it's a semantic difference that
Correct.
just,
Yes.
there were similar programs and both. I just wanted to say thank you also. It was, we had so much fun. My daughter absolutely loved the one and only Ivan, and it just really is, I mean, I echo what President Brown said. It's really an impressive breadth of topics, and I'm excited that we're going to be able to do this, and thank you so much to you and your whole team, because I think it was a really great summer.
Definitely.
Thank you.
I just want to say, we obviously passed a new comprehensive plan. Previous iteration of the comprehensive plan, one of the goals that we had established, and we just struggled to ever get there, was this idea of a community read. And so I want to say thank you to you and to the team to be able to pull that off, and I hope we continue this as a tradition. I know the turnout wasn't what we had hoped originally, but I think with more people buying into it and seeing the fun that we can have with it, I think it's going to be great. And I want to say to Kristen O'Neill, who's obviously we got her in the totally the right spot. She's embraced this opportunity and to promote reading in the district. And to Christine, to you, I think people forget how exhausting last year is, and to the teachers that were involved, the fact that we really haven't stopped. Where others maybe took a break, there wasn't a break. And so I want to say thank you to you and to the team and the supervisors. Just the amount of effort that goes into running this district and getting to where we are. Thank you for what you guys have done. And to Mr. Brown, Board President Brown's comment, and Dr. Haig's, there are enrichment activities that were occurring in those elective offerings, that we had those students that were coming in for that support to continue that motivation. And third final point is, Aranda and I think it was yesterday, the day before, I forget, Aranda, we've been interviewed so frequently, but we had a news reporter here in the high school yesterday, I think, or the day before, talking about fair funding. And when you talk about the dollar amount for just 1,000 students, when you put into context that kids deserve this all of the time, and it's about $800,000, my heart breaks when I think about the fact that this funding, without it continuing in our schools, what's going to happen 2 years from now when we no longer have that funding, and these kids need this extension of the school year and these activities to help them and engage them. And so we need to really continue to push for fair funding in our schools. Our teachers deserve it, and more importantly, the kids and the experiences that they have. So do Board President Brown's comments that there can be enrichment opportunities for all kids above and beyond. And we won't be limited to just 1,000 kids who want it. It'd be wonderful one day to have 50% of our kids engaged in some enrichment activity over the summer. But I just want to say thank you to the team and to you for making it happen.
Thank you. Yeah, it seemed amazing, so I'm sure there was a lot of planning that went into it, and thank you. Hope you get a little bit of a break, maybe at some point, maybe over Christmas or something. Okay. Are there any other comments from board members? Okay, seeing none, I think we're at the point where we can take public comments now. Are there any public comments on the Education and Pupil Services agenda? Ms. Buford?
There are no comments on the Education and Pupil Services Committee
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you so much. So this agenda item was just purely informational, so there's no action to be taken tonight. So I'm going to turn it back over to you to adjourn the meeting.
A motion is in order for the adjournment of the Education and Pupil Services Committee meeting.
So moved.
All right. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell, for running that meeting.